Yo, what's up? This is the heavy hitter, wig splitter, never quitter, big boy from Brooklyn, Tyree Taylor. You're not watching, now returning to the ring with my dog, big dog, red dog, holla.
And then it's on you. Yeah. So we'll get into this bigger intro in three, two, one. You see, there's this thing that happens in like wrestling wherein you have like these great feuds, right? And everybody talks about these great moments and great matches. For instance, if you go to WrestleMania, you're gonna have Stone Cold and Rock 1, Stone Cold and Rock 2, Stone Cold and Rock 3. And this show is similar to that same energy. That's right, because this is now returning to the ring, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, man, that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. But more importantly, it's never about me. It's about who's entering the ring. So who's now returning to the ring? You see the man right there, okay? He is the heavy hitter, the wig splitter, the big boy from Brooklyn. You know, that bad man and the leader, and he won't say it, but the leader of one of the best factions on the East Coast, prolific. He is the man, the myth, the legend, Tyree Taylor.
Oh man. See, it's three. Since last time we talked, it was three like-minded individuals. Now it's
Yep.
five like-minded individuals for one goal.
Yeah.
We are a conglomerate, so to speak.
Bruh.
we step in and lead when we have to. So I won't claim that right now, but when they need me to, I will. And when it's time for somebody else to lead, they lead. So you know the vibe. It is what it
Always.
is. But
Always. It's like
come
everybody.
on, baby.
Well, that's the beauty of like prolific, and it's a lot like it's like pure ignorance too, right? Is that like everybody has like their unique skill and they're able
Mm,
to lead when they need to, right? Like,
yeah.
you know, everybody has like their skill set that they can utilize, right? Whether it's like
Mm,
in the ring or out of the ring. And I think that's one thing that when we first met, right, 5 years ago, Jesus, almost 5 years ago,
yeah.
uh
Yeah.
I was like I was a solo guy, and Chaz and Prince were just like a brand new tag team on the
Hmm.
scene, and we sat with you guys, and we actually, if you guys want to, Prolific 101, you guys go check it out on our dream. We chatted about like, forming and bonding and kind of relating and stuff like that. And fast forward 5 years, like our group is still figuring it out, right? Like
Mm,
we know like Chaz will always be like the loudmouth, like he just
hmm.
is. But like I'm in the background having fun doing the social media stuff, posting on the background, and then Prince is our I call him our heavy hitter because he's the guy that's like always in the gym, lifting, working
Okay.
out, and we
Okay.
all
Okay.
do it. We all do it, but it's just that, I look at
I
Prince
would
that
hope
way.
so.
Yeah, and then we have our young guy, right, Noah, and like he's building and growing and figuring stuff out, learning the lessons that we're learning along too. So it's
Mm,
kind of cool. But then we watch you guys, and then we kind of watch how you guys move, and we pick the lessons out that you guys are doing and going through and figuring that stuff out too. And it's wild because like when you look at it, like the boys are sitting down in Baltimore, and I'm actually Massachusetts, and that's where you are. And then
hmm.
the rest of
Yes,
the
sir.
fellas are outside in New York, New Jersey. So it's just kind of funny, like how our factions are just kind of similar, in a way.
Hmm. Absolutely. So when I made the move out here, we were always a little worried about like how we're gonna get do things together and stuff like that, and then realized how big the wrestling world is. So we can either divide and conquer, or I could take a trip to New York and New Jersey to do a show with them, or go to Maryland with them, or we could all road trip down to somewhere new like Ohio or something like that, and just kill it whatever we're doing, and then knowing that uh, whatever we do is in you know entangled with the brand. You kind of feel everybody's presence when you're doing something. So logistically we're fine. You're
Yeah.
fine. You know what I'm saying? We're cool.
And I think the other part too is that like the internet has brought like the world so much closer, especially the
Yeah,
wrestling world so much closer,
absolutely.
because like you can be anywhere in the world and you can check out something like the Wrestling Open, or you can check out CZW, or you can check out things that are happening in like a small, like, and I love this, and I love this company, but I'll refer to them as a smaller indie, right?
Mhm.
SWA. Like you
Yeah,
can find out what's going on in the whole entire industry, and you don't even have to leave your house. And
no,
so I think being able to sit back and communicate with your boys and figuring out like, hey man, like I'm gonna hit this and this is what I want to do, and I'm gonna do these things. I need you guys at this one, right? Because like you, right, uh Focus Pro Wrestling, right? Prime
hmm
example, right? Like you run it on your own, but you recently just became the FPW heavyweight champion. And when you
yeah,
became that, you know, Isaiah and Marcus and Lala were here. And
yes,
just the one show that I happened to miss because I was booked in Pennsylvania. So I
yeah,
was like, damn it, like I was gonna totally get this by. But no, it worked out that way. And then like
hmm
I know for me, like I'm able to talk to the fellas and they're like, hey, we have a booking in Virginia. Can you come down for that one? And I've
yeah,
been through, hey, we're doing this in Maryland, we're doing this in Pennsylvania. So like it's easy to kind of coordinate those things and be like, all right, cool. What do you guys need me for? What can I be a part of? What do you guys need from me? What do I gotta do? It works out.
yeah. It works out because once you kind of understand your roles and understand the territory you're running and understand that we're not going to see each other every day or something or every weekend like we used to or something like that. You have that kind of idea that we as individuals are just as strong as if we are together. So they're not gonna, one person is not going to go to some place and be drowned out. Because if you put Wolf somewhere, he's a star. You put me somewhere, I'm a star. You put Marcus somewhere, stars, and La La the same. And if we're doing that at the same time and then coming together, it's a product that people will want to see. And even having a good social media presence, we'll be able to, you know, do something. Even if we're all together for one time, we could cut a promo that'll last weeks because it has a lasting effect on what's going on in the landscape of independent wrestling here. So even though I love what we're doing, there's always room for more. So we're going to look to expand and do other stuff as well. But that's logistically when you crunch all the numbers and everything down, we're taking over a little bit at a time. We're looking like chirp service. We're gonna look like T-Mobile service soon, and then we're gonna look like Verizon. You know how the map is, the
Yeah.
coverage. That's how that's how we're gonna look.
Yeah, that's something that like Chaz and I always talk about in the background. And we're always talking about like, hey, how cool would it be to have like different renditions of PI, right?
Mm,
Like ultimately, because the way you describe it too is the same way I think about PI is essentially being like the Avengers. Like, yeah, you have all those movies,
mm,
and but then you have the super movie that you do together, and then like you go back out in your own generation, you do your own
exactly,
thing. And I
exactly.
think about that too, where I was like, yo, what if we had like a PI version of in Massachusetts, like a PI chapter? And he brought it up first. He brought up the PI chapter in like Massachusetts. There's one in Utah. For
Mm,
those who know, and then we're looking at like different areas and different people that we have reach out to, and we're talking about like how fun would it be to be able to be like, yo, if you could check out what we're doing here, or you could check out what we're doing there, and then everybody comes together.
yeah,
It's crazy looking, and I love that you guys are doing that because that's
yeah,
now we know that we're on the same track because we're like, yo, we doing the same thing.
yeah. It's like, but the thing is, we can't just bring anybody on.
Right.
We can't just bring anybody on. You gotta fit the mold, and like Lala came in, I knew her from my time in Texas. So once she came on, like it was a whole different dynamic because it was just us three for a while. You see, it was just
Yep.
us three for a while. And then Lala came on, there's a whole different dynamic now as the first lady. And then now we got our wise brother Dre, who's now Big shout out to him. He is now half the man he used to be. He was on his weight loss journey doing this thing.
Nice.
He's like, we call him Big Baby Dre, but now, Slim Baby Dre. Holla at him. So he came on because he was just a straight up supporter. He was doing his sports podcast, your sports show, and he's just kept shouting us out, shouting us out. He would come out and do the thing, and then Wolf was just like, "Yo, why don't we just bring him out one time?" And then that one time turned into many times, and we just incorporated him, and and it just like, why don't we just make him an official member? We're like, yeah, it almost feels like that anyway. So many people is like, yeah, I want to be a prolific. Da, 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 da. We don't have applications, bro. This just happens.
You got to
This
put
just
the
happens, man.
well, and like with any good faction, like you got to put the work in, bro. Like
Oh
you can't just be like, oh man, like I want to be a member too. Like no. Like there are things that you have got to. Like I know, like with PI, right? Like I had always thought about like, hey, these are my friends. These are the guys I ride the roads with, and these are the guys that like even when they book me as a single guy, like I
yeah.
have one of those two, one of actually now one of those four. I have one of those four with me the whole time. And so like when
Mhm.
I moved to Massachusetts, obviously I knew I was like, I'm gonna catch up with them when I catch up with them. But
Yeah.
when I was down there, I was like, yo, and then eventually it was just like, all right, man, like, hey, we gonna run the storyline. It's almost like it's like you guys kind of need an extra person and I'm just gonna come out and help you guys out. And
Yeah.
they're like, well, why? I was like, because I'm a mercenary and I'm able to do those things. And also it clicked. And then the one time we all teamed up, we were at like EWA,
Mhm.
and it just felt like supernatural. And we were like, yeah, we're doing this now. We're running this for a
Oh yeah.
while.
So see how easy it comes together when you enjoy each other, and like your stuff works well with somebody else. They make up for what you lack and stuff like that. Like just being a faction that someone else puts together and being a faction that organically happens are two totally different dynamics. It is
Yep.
night and day. You can almost see like when somebody is putting on a show or when this is how they are out in the streets. Like you've seen us outside of the ring, you've seen us inside the ring. There's not much difference.
No.
There's not much difference. So it's like the being organic and authentic. It's kind of like the shit for us.
Yeah. Like
So yeah,
it just has to feel natural too. And that's like I think
yeah,
that's the one thing about you is that like you and I kind of have like the similar personality where we're both like able to kind of just like we're malleable, if that's the right
hmm
word to use.
yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah.
we're adaptable to the whole situation because like
Hmm.
even at the open, right? Like you're running with the Church of Greatness,
Yes.
and like when you're with Brother Greatness, and then
Hmm.
you're obviously with Sammy and Lucas, like y'all just have like this natural chemistry that like fits, and I think you kind of being like the old head of the group and kind of sitting there and vibing with everybody. And then like, Brother Greatness he's just a creative genius. Let's be real.
Hmm.
He
Yeah.
just knows how to like to get all the right pieces turning in the right directions. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just fun to watch you guys all work together too. So it's like seeing you from there, seeing you to, what it is with Prolific. Like you're right. There's not much changes, but like the difference that comes into like, I guess when you're when you're called, because like
Yeah.
I see when you are obviously with those guys, like even though you are the aggressor, like in Prolific, like you can also be like that dude who also has some fun side to him in the Church of
Yeah.
Greatness. So it is fun to watch you kind of go back and forth and change up, like fix
And
it.
the and I'll like it's almost kind of like the same deal with Prolific, even though like I rock with Prolific for whatever it is. This is one of those rare times when a promoter puts you with somebody and it's all natural. Because fun fact, I've known Brother Greatness for most of my wrestling career, like maybe about 11 years now. Like we used to run through BWF in the Bronx when that was a thing. And like when he was doing the gimmick, he was doing the the babyface stuff. and I was doing a baby. We were just rocking together. We clicked automatically from there. So when Sammy and Lucas came in, like I knew of them, but they were just such good individuals. I kind of relayed whatever I felt to Brother Greatness because one, he's a creative genius, like you said, but he is so reliable and he understands not only me but situations so well. I divert to him a lot. So he's one of those guys that like if he leaves, there's no Church of Greatness.
Right.
He's the glue for whatever's going on in wrestling open. It's him, and especially in tying in Ichiban and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If Brother Greatness decided to leave wrestling open, there would be no change.
It's one of those things that he told me too. Like when we had him on the podcast, we talked about
Mm-hmm.
this, and he said, and it's funny because like I've seen the different renditions of Church of Greatness, right? Because when
Yes.
the even Stevens were attached to it and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like he said, he goes, if you want different meals, you use different ingredients, and like
Mm-hmm.
he like we praising you, bro. Like you get this praise because
Mm-hmm.
you are the master chef. Like you take different ingredients into a bowl and then you make a whole new meal. And
Yeah,
then like you take some of those ingredients out, you put in new ingredients, and guess what? That same meal is that a new flavor, a new fire to it, and you're like, bro, this is just as good as the original, or you like this is a little better. I like this one, and then
it's
I'm
funny because we talk about that all the time. Like Wrestling Open is just an episode of Chopped.
yeah,
Like we don't know what's going on, and then until you open the box, and you gotta cook with whatever ingredients and make the best meal out of it, and just not get eliminated at the end of it. And
yes,
then so you just gotta adapt to what the hell is going on and make whatever they decide to put in front of you, make it palatable to the people who's watching. And him being organic, me being organic and authentic, and the people can see right through phony bullshit. Let's be
yeah,
real. They can see through the phony. So when something real is happening, they can see 10 years of friendship with me, brother Lucas. So it's like they we get satisfied when they're satisfied.
yeah, and
So
that's something that like I learned too when I was out there was that like just sitting there and just like one like being involved but then also being like observant in the crowd like
mm-hmm.
you have those real moments that you're like yeah this is something special and
Yeah,
then you have those other moments where you're kind of like with the right tweaking like this is gonna be fire and
yeah,
then like you know and I thoroughly enjoyed like even just being a part of the two matches I was there with like Ray Jazz and Brian Malonis like
mm-hmm.
having those two just kind of help me and guide me and stuff like that and even like the match with Ray like I hit him with two clotheslines, and you heard the crowd in the background like cheering me
Yeah,
on, like, "Yo, okay, like we getting somewhere with this." And then the fun part is you kind of go away for a little bit, you come back, and the crowd's like, "I don't remember you," but
yeah,
if you've been there for a while, like, and then
mm-hmm.
you go away, you come back, then the crowd gets hyped about you. And I was like, I want that kind of return. Like when I come, if I ever, well, I don't say if, when I come back to Wrestling Open, I want, I know that they're not gonna know me right away, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But after a while, like I want to, and I've talked about it. I was like, I just want to be a main player. Like I just want to be a staple, and in time things will happen. But I'm just like at this time, like it's just rebuilding the brand, refocusing, and getting back into the grind mode of things. And I never went away. I just
Mm-hmm.
went on to a different back to a place that I recognized, and just started working on my craft, and then just figuring it out from there.
And like with me, it's kind of the same, but it's very subtle. I do very subtle things to try to stay not only consistent to me, but also bring a new flavor to things. Like very small detail I've done recently is I went from even from the entrance, I went from the beanie to tying my do rag in the front, and there's a different like swagger and kind of like a different vibe that comes with it. It's subtle, but it's so potent that you can kind of see what's going on. And without I haven't changed anything else. I haven't changed anything else, but it's such a little thing that like people can relate to, at some point, even though, like, granted, White Eagle is not Brooklyn, New York. But the people that if three people get what I did, I'm okay. I'm very Easter egg and oriented. So I will throw in something that three people might get out of 100, and I will be okay with it. But it's very subtle. So, like, people do these big old brand revamps and stuff like that. Like, maybe it's just the way you tie a shoe. Maybe it's just the way you put on the jacket. Maybe it's just the way you put your hat on, or something like that. That'll make people. It's probably gonna sound crazy, but make people, make you taste better to somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no. I definitely understand. Cause like even like for me recently, like the last, so I still have like the red tights that I still like
Mm-hmm.
rocking, right? But I also bought some red and black camel pants, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, yo, I rock them out, and one, it's kind of like one. I know everybody going after I say this, I'm like, oh yeah, of course. And then you're like, you didn't know, you just thought. Uh, but I do it as like an homage to like Rey Mysterio because when Ray was back when he was out without his
With
mask
that
on.
filthy ant, with
Yeah,
those
the filthy
filthy animals.
animals.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And
Filthy
and
animals. Yep.
the last show I was at, and I haven't done it with the full entrance yet. I did it as just
Mm-hmm.
like kind of just like a thing that I wanted to try at SWA. I also was rocking the my only Red Dog beanie. So
Mm-hmm.
when I came out with it, like it was just a straight homage to like Ray, and I still have my mask and everything. But yeah, it just felt really like natural, and I was like, yo,
Yeah.
I'm in with this. And so like I started getting with the crowd and stuff like that. Still hitting the same moves, all the same
Yeah.
power moves,
Yeah.
and yeah. But I just felt like way more aggressive, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna.
And that could be all the difference. That could be all the difference. The devil's in the details, and
Yep.
it might not hit immediately, but once you start conditioning people to understand you and what you're trying to pull off and
Yeah.
make it relatable, you'll be all right.
Oh, yeah, and also I think that's something else, like, I should start, and it's also could be something thing that you do, like, and you have, like, your, like, MC, your announcer say it, right? Like, "Hey, he's an Air Force veteran intel specialist." Like, it could be
Hmm.
something I could throw in there too, and then the crowd be like, "Oh, that's why he's wearing the military gear," 'cause,
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been thinking about these kind of things now, and I'm starting to play with the details, and I actually had a match, a couple months ago with, actually, a friend of ours, Stan Styles, and,
Yep.
he gave me some great pointers and stuff like that. So the following month, when I was back working at a set place, I started like putting those little tips and tricks into the matches, and I felt like I was getting more from the crowd. So I was like, all right, we're on to something. We're learning something new. We're on to something, and I think that's the important part because I think it was you and I that talked about this was like carrying a sponge and always remembering like where you come from
Yeah.
and that you're always there to learn. And so when I would sit
Hmm.
back piecing back things together, I was like, oh yeah, that worked out there and this worked out here. Everybody
Hmm.
loved this move. People love that. So I was like, all right, we're gonna start pulling this all together and figuring this out.
Yeah.
Yo, so let me ask you this question because you have been holding tons of championships, and I'm not gonna ask you which one's your favorite, but I'm gonna ask you which which match do you think like helped push you into the direction that you're in now? Like, what was the match that gave you like the biggest learning experience? I guess is where I'm really trying to get with it.
Man, man. There's a couple, but I really think it is the trios match with STP, Prolific versus STP, Shane Taylor Promotions. I think there was an easy story, an easy reason why we would wrestle. Um, the history, the little nuances and stuff like that. But if you take all that away, all three of those individuals are people you want to wrestle and just collaborate ideas and stuff like that, and they bring out the emotion out of you. Like, it's almost forced to bring some sort of, because you can't half step with any of those three.
Mm-mm.
You know what I'm saying? Even though they're all doing different things now, You can't half step with Khan, with Moses, with Shane. Even O'Shea. You can't half step with those guys. So if you don't bring it, you're going to get got. And we refused to get got that night. And it all culminated to like what happened during the match and then the finish and then the speech after. Like all of that, like he didn't have to do any of that. Even though he was like currently like he was ROH 6-man champion with those two. He didn't have to do any of that. So for him to do that and it made me realize like, yo, I'm here. I can do this. I feel like my hard work is paying off. Sometimes maybe it's just me, maybe it's other people too, but sometimes I felt like I feel invisible sometimes. You know what I mean? I feel like, I can put on a good product, but will I, one, be recognized for it? Two, will I get anywhere with it? And three, you can only, like, potential doesn't pay the bills, you know? So once that match happened, I felt like I can break through that glass ceiling and get somewhere. And then the momentum just kept going from there. So I think that would be a pivot point too for that.
Yeah, that was one of my matches that I remember. Like when it was announced, I just looked at the screen like all hell is about to break loose. And then then watching it, I was like, all hell has broken loose.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Cuz like there was just a cool story between the each one of you got into that ring, right? Like, you know, Moses and I think it was Isaiah like had their moment, you and Shane had your moment, and then Khan and
Oh,
Marcus
it
had
was.
their moment.
Oh, it was Con and Wolf. I
Yeah.
remember that. Yeah, it was Con and Wolf, and then Moses and Marcus, and then
Yeah,
me and
like
Shane. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
everybody had like their thing that they wanted to kind of tie in, and then like
Mm-hmm.
it all really accumulated to when you and Shane got in the ring and then just
Mm-hmm.
started dropping bombs. And it is funny because I think for me it was I took it like I got hit personally with it too, because not only have I had like, I've talked to all of you, right?
Yeah.
But it was one of those things that like I don't know, it was like it was a weird thing to like feel, because I knew like you and Shane had been former tag team champions, that
Mm-hmm.
you guys had, he was there's the learning tree of STP, and that you had sat under that tree, and then like here I am learning from you, learning from him, and then on the other outside learning from like O'Shea and everybody else too. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, like I had this like huge emotional connection to the match, and I remember like watching through and just being like, holy shit, like I was still young in the game, just like enjoying it as a fan. But then when I
Right.
pulled back and started dissecting it, I was like, oh, there's a lot of shit that's going on in this ring that no one's like really talking about. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
this is so much fun to just watch the storylines play out. And yeah, no, I was like, I was wrapped up in that match. I remember I talked to the guys.
Mm-hmm.
We had talked about it on the podcast. We
Yeah.
talked about it, and I had made it my match of the week. And everybody was like, an indie match? I was like, come on, man. Like, we did not treat this like an indie match. This was like WrestleMania, like
Oh,
main event to us.
yeah. Oh, that's dope. That's dope. I appreciate that. Like anybody who says that about any match of mine is pretty dope, man. Like,
Bruh. That match had like tons and tons of great moments in it, right? But I do
mm,
want to talk about one moment,
mm,
because we were at Focus Pro, right? And this was recent, so you'll
mm,
know this very well.
yes.
You had this
Oh,
match with look. Listen, we were watching Focus Pro. It was Focus Pro and IGB together. You had that match with
yes.
Little Mean Kathleen.
Oh boy.
She hit
Yeah.
that Vader bomb, and I'm gonna tell you, man, I was on the other side of the ring
That
when
was
you
you. Yeah.
yeah, I was on
What?
the other side of the ring when you threw
Yeah.
her, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, she got so much air." And when she hit, I was like, "I think she's dead. I really think she died." I was like, "I witnessed a murder. I saw nothing." Like, yo, I was like, "Oh my god, the power that you threw behind that backpack, that just had."
listen,
Right.
it's on paper. You see me, you see Little Mean Kathleen. I have to throw the proverbial shit out of her. Like, like at some point, she has to be tossed.
Yeah.
I wish I thought about tossing her into the people that were cheering for her. That would have been great. But having a ring to throw from one side to the other of somebody, you knew something like that was gonna happen, and I'm glad to oblige. You know, more than happy, more than happy.
Well, it's like so we talk about something that goes on in the business where we talk about looking larger than life, right? And one
Mm-hmm.
of those things, and I know this is a secret, and I'm sorry that I'm gonna spill the beans on this one, but
Mm-hmm.
standing corner to corner, and it was just a thing that like sure the ring is 16 by 16, 18 by 18, 20 by 20, right? But the idea that you took another human being and threw them to the other post, like that is it makes everything look that much bigger. And this
Yeah.
is kind of where like I want to get into like the conversation side. This is like doing big actions and like having big expressions, like and how much they like rub off on the people. Cause
Mm-hmm.
like as soon as you threw her, you got back up and you just looked at everybody and you're like, this is what we do here, blah. And you're just
Mm-hmm.
in people's faces. And then just instantly the crowd was like, fuck Tyree. I
I, I'm aware. I remember hearing that. Yeah.
I just sat on the other side and I was like, I just remember I legit was doing like this thing. I was like, oh, I was like, and like I think you see my face like
Yeah.
on if you go back and watch the
You turned
IGTV.
around.
Yeah,
I
I was
remember
like,
in the clip.
oh
You
god,
turned around. I forgot who you were with. Who you were
it
with,
was
but
Travis Jacob
yes,
was with
Travis
me.
Jacob. Yes, you were with Travis Jacob, and like the look of disbelief when that happened, right? So
Yeah,
like when like being larger than life, like that's kind of the name of the game, right? You know that like there are in most places 2 to 3 cameras on you. You know, there's a camera on me now. You know, you have to feel presence somewhere. You can't just waste the recording doing absolutely nothing, or else you won't be used for that roll of footage anymore. So if I'm not going to be 7 feet tall, if I'm not going to, do something that somebody else can, I have to be larger than life. I have to be, even though I have other things I can lean on, being larger than life is one of those things that, you know, keep you recognized in a room full of hundreds of people. They're all looking at you. What are you going to do? So when I'm getting up after following slamming her to Rhode Island, um, I'm looking at people because they know at the end of the day, if you decide to sign the waiver and get in the ring with me, that can happen to you. That can happen to you, and very much so. Like, there's not much of a chance for you. We are the comic books come to life, and we have to do some comic book shit. And I'm going to do some comic book shit in real life and make the people feel like they don't have a chance with me because in reality, they do not. So, I don't need a ring to toss you 20 feet in the air. That's just what it is. But because there's the safety of the ring, it's not for us. It's for them.
right.
you know, I could have tossed her further if I wanted to, but
It
as long as they see the example, they know.
right, and I think that's important too. And it's what's funny too is that like you do all these things, you put out this persona, you get and actually let's be real, like the persona that you put out there is not like you said earlier, it's not too much
It's
different
just me.
from yeah, the real person. And
It's
I
just
think
me.
But that's the other part too, is that like not only do you put out this the larger than life persona, but you're a genuine person. Like you're genuine about who you are. So it's not like, and I think that's why people vibe with you, whether they love you or hate you. They vibe with you because you're genuine about it. Like you're like, yo, like you can get in this ring, you can get this work too, or you can get in this ring and get this love too. One
Yeah,
of two things is gonna happen, but more or less,
yeah,
it's not gonna be the love side because I'm just
and
gonna beat the
it's all
dog.
work.
Yeah,
you know,
it's,
it's all work. It's all work. I'm gonna bust your ass. Right. Yeah. So one of my mentors used to say, "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to fuck you up." Yeah.
I like that.
And that's what I've been doing for almost 13 years.
Yo, I love it. I love it. I love it. Yo, it's so it's crazy too because like I remember when we first met, I remember being like so like scared like talking to you and Isaiah and Marquise, right? Because like y'all had like this stuff kind of figured out and you guys were still rolling along. And then once like the ice kind of broke with my match with Darius, which, you know, one day I'm gonna run that match back with Darius Carter. But when after the ice kind of got broken and then we started talking and kind of vibing, like there was just like this whole cool learning lesson about things. And it's funny because like you and I have gone back, actually here recently we've gone back, we've chatted up about like, you know, where are things I can improve and things I can do
Mhm,
and things I can get to. But it's also funny because I run a lot of ideas by the fellas first and then I come and I
mhm.
run them by you and then I run them back to the fellas. I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
these are the points that I want to fix and fine tune. And it's funny because like at the end of the day, I find myself wrapping up myself around like just wrapping myself back around this like comedic like horror type character. Like
Mhm.
Red Dog is just a mercenary, he's just having fun.
Yeah.
But and that's why I find myself wrapping around. I don't want to say horror because I keep thinking about the White Six. Sorry. They
Yeah.
just debuted on Monday and it's just
Yeah.
wrapping my mind.
Yeah. So
But
yeah.
yo, it
Mhm.
is but it's one of those things where I go back to you and I talk to you about it. I'm like, yo, like what do you think of this and what do you think of that? And it's cool to watch you dissect it back and be like, hey, this is what I want you to see, and I want more aggression here. I want more facials here, right? So I appreciate you like just sitting back and just chatting with me and talking with me more about like building the brand.
Not a problem. Now I'll shoot some free game for you guys real quick. Like, uh, there's one thing about being larger than life. There's another having great timing, right? Whether it's comedic timing, whether it's wrestling timing and stuff like that. Um, Wrestling is 80% mental. Anybody can learn anybody can learn the fucking moves. you know, like of course you got to be active and all that good stuff, but like anybody can learn the moves. It's how you do it, how you place them, what you got to do, um, when to do something, when does it make sense to do it, um, how will this come off. That's where training comes in. That's where having a mentor comes in to kick things down for you. Because there's a lot of people, there's a lot of wrestlers out there who would do something and have done it for however long they've been doing it, and it sucked every time. And because nobody said, "Hey, that sucks," and you know, one of my good friends, his name is JJ Blake down in Texas. Uh, he probably gave me one of the realest quotes I've ever heard. The minute you realize you suck is the minute you just got better. I
Hmm.
am no, I I'm one of my biggest critics. I'm probably my own biggest critic. So like if I think a match sucks, people are telling me it's a 5-star match. I know I could have made it 6. You know, like I'm never satisfied, but I always enjoy the moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, like so having someone to say, "Hey, try something else," or tweak it, or something like that. Um, a lot of people don't have that, and a lot of people like fail to have that person to kind of do it. Like I've trained under Johnny Rod's Hall of Famer. I trained under Booker T Hall of Famer, and like right now, even though I'm technically graduated a school and wrestle out and can do whatever I want. I don't need a trainer, so to speak. I've picked up my own mentor when I'm out here. His name is Chase Del Monte from New England Pro Wrestling Academy. Like, if I don't feel good about something, I talk to him about it, and we kind of just collaborate, beat up ideas, and see which one looks best optically. And he gives me the real, the honest, the whatever. Because let's be real, a lot of times when you have a match and you go back to the boys, oh, that was great. Some people, there's some people you can go to that can give you the real, you know. And Chase Del Monte has been one of those guys who not only has an amazing school, he's training killers out there, but his mind is accessible enough to where I can put my ideas and we just go back and forth and we can collaborate on something that can make me better. You know what I mean? And he's been amazing at that. So having someone there, having a mentor, a proper school, and somewhere where you can just throw something at a canvas and just to make sure it's working is best, and probably one of my biggest advice to like any either up and coming or people who feel like they've hit a ceiling on something, they hit a wall or anything like that, to get to that next level. That's one of the biggest things. Have a mentor, have an OG, have somebody who you can do who you can depend on to give you some real shit. That that's kind of where that would go.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, man, and it is, it's major, like, and it's not just like that in wrestling, it's like that in life. Like, you should
Yes.
definitely be having like someone that you can vibe off of and just like bounce an idea. They could tell you like, yo, this sucked. It was like a match that I had recently, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought I could do more in the match, right?
Mm-hmm.
But afterwards, this promoter pulled me to the side and he's like, I've been watching you wrestle for the last 3 years, and he's like, and what you did in that match today, like, was really cool. Like, there's a couple kids who are just like in their first or second matches. I forget.
Mm-hmm.
They were pretty green. But he's like, yo, when you needed things to kind of slow down, you got them to slow down, and when you needed things to be focused on, like stuff that was going on in the ring, you made sure that people were pay attention to the ring. You got the guys down, you got the guys up. Like when stuff was going on hectic, you made sure that you got everything. He's like, you had like a lot of control chaos in this match. He's like, and I appreciate that you were able to do that. And I thought that was kind of cool. It was like a cool comment, and I was like, all right, cool. So I figured out like I'm starting to figure out how to kind of like work a
Yeah.
little bit. But it was, again, it goes back to having great mentors and being able to trust people to be like, hey, you're on my team. I kind of need your help to like figure out this like
Mm.
last piece to kind of figure the rest of this out and shake
Yeah.
some jigsaw puzzle. So yeah, definitely when I come back to you, I definitely know like it's something like O'Shea said to me. I go back to people and I'm just like, just tell me this match sucked and tell me why it sucked. And then they go back and they do it.
Mm.
And I'm like, now I hate my match more than I did.
Yeah. Oh, but there's like a downside to that. People sometimes get the wrong OGs.
Yeah.
Sometimes people get the wrong mentors. Like, people don't vet their mentors. People don't vet their OGs. Like you just calling somebody an OG because they've been in the business longer than you, and you've been around them. Like, it sometimes you've been around 20 years and you still trash. That makes me sick. You know,
Yeah.
and it's like I don't think I think kind of highly of myself when it comes to wrestling. I know I'm not the greatest yet, but it's like you spent this time doing stuff and you're teaching people horrible habits that is going to get somebody hurt.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't be so judgmental or gatekeepy if lives were on the line. If like if I'm wrestling you, my life is on in your hands and vice versa. So like teaching people bad habits because you yourself never created bad habits. It's like it's 2020 and you're coughing for the sake of it, and then spreading bullshit around, getting everybody sick.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
true.
it's the same thing. So like get someone who's worth a damn. you know, there's a whole criteria I have that I thought out. It's like it's a whole thing. But yeah,
Yeah,
vet your OGs.
I think that's the one thing. Like even through me, like I have a mental checklist. Like you had just said it right. I have a mental checklist of my own of like what has this person done? Where have they been going? What are the areas that they're working in? Are they
Mm-hmm.
only had they traveled outside of 30 miles from their home? Right. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think about those things a lot when I go back through and I talk to people because I'm like I don't really know you. Actually, and here's
Yeah.
another one. Have they committed a crime? Because it's weird. There's some people out here that like, yo, you have a mentor, and then you look back and you're like, whoa, you had some shit
Bro,
that you did.
whoa, buddy.
Yeah, so
Uh,
I should not associate
no,
with you,
no, no. Like that's real shit.
bruh. All right, man.
That's real
So,
shit. That's real shit. Yeah, yeah. We'll leave it at that. That's real shit, though.
but yo, let my people know where they can find you, either all over social media or just like whatever you got going on.
Oh man. So T_Taylor 347 on Instagram, TikTok, all the socials. Uh, Tyree D Taylor on Facebook, um, and Google me, Twitter, all that. I'm not hard to reach. Um, every Thursday, forever, Wrestling Open, Focus Pro, all up and down IWTV. I'm trying to own IWTV at one point, and I'm gonna put it on here. I'm gonna bust Crew ass. He better hold that title, because whoever he decides to run through, I want next. I want that title next. But that's just manifesting. The future. I've been a good fortune teller, and so I think that's a spoiler more than a prediction. But you can catch me all over. I ain't hard to reach.
Bruh. And just like that, we're gonna wrap this up, take this home, because that's what we like to do in wrestling. And you know what that means. This is now returning to the ring, and you see the man right next to me, the mentor, the legend, the myth, the dude that you go to when you need to learn about Curtis, Tyree Taylor, and you guys know what to do. Tune in to the next
I'm
episode
dead.
and be there, or you really just follow us on all of our social media platforms right here up on the top. You even check us out on Spotify. You're listening to us on YouTube, or you're watching
Mhm.
us on YouTube, you're subscribed to our channel, you're following us, you're checking us on Amazon Music, you're even listening to that dumb app with a stupid jingle that goes iHeartRadio or whatever it does. foryourwear.com. Check us out there. Go check us out on Pro Wrestling Tees. Share this with your mom, your dad, your uncle, your aunties, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, your enemies, because we love haters too. Do all that stuff, or really, just wait for this episode to end, wait for that outro, and then choose another intro or another episode to listen to.
Yeah.
Kawaii.
Don't ask me about Curtis.